Hi everybody, my name is Ted Brown. I have the honor of being the brother of Jackie here.
Like brother.
Born in
Like
the
a
19
brother.
Beautiful family.
born in the 1950s. And what I'd like to do is sort of three things muddled up together. The first is a quick reminder of why we're here. The second is to talk about how individual action moves out into collective action that becomes very effective, and also to make a point about the connection between different movements and different actions intertwining together to challenge the problems that face us all. Now, about us being here, we are here in order to challenge an event that would not happen if we were living in a truly civilized world.
Yes.
People are openly coming and legally coming here to make money and buy and purchase lethal weapons that they know and intend to use to kill other people. This is being allowed. It's being supported by the police, as you saw, when we try to protest against this evil. We are held back, we are kettled, some of us are arrested and dragged away. This is unacceptable in a country that claims to be one of the epicenters of civilization in the Western world. Now, that trade is involved in a lot of euphemisms, right? They call themselves a trade fair, using a word that is associated with light, entertainment, innocent fun, when in fact what they are doing is planning mass murder. There are other euphemisms that system uses, such as referring to battles as encounters, and more chillingly, talking about the death of people as collateral damage.
Yes.
Right? Now, this is the way that they get some of their actions past us, by prettying it over, by smoothing over the words and trying to pretend that what they're doing is offering a system of defense and support for our civilization, for our culture, when in fact what they're doing is supporting a capitalist system that profits some, denigrates others, and even more forcefully kills masses and masses of people, most of them non-white, most of them not from the West, and most of them not earning the kind of incomes of the people who are killing them, right? Now, this system, this euphemistic system, doesn't really successfully hide its viciousness. This is a system that develops something called Agent Orange. You may have heard of it. It became famously used in Vietnam to defoliate the forest and the green areas in the Vietnam War during that vicious and actually quite pointless war. The American soldiers, the American army, went in and destroyed acres and acres of land, completely disinterested in whether they were destroying the land of the people they claimed that they were also fighting for. Now, even now, there are still American soldiers who are taking out legal action against the American government because their contact with Agent Orange led to some of their children having birth defects. But none of the people in Vietnam who suffered massive numbers of up to 50,000 births with serious defects managed to bring any legal action against America. And yet we still get America boasting and pretending it is the land of the free, the home of the brave. Now, this system can be very clever in devising these lethal weapons, but they're not really that clever because they have yet devised a weapon that is selective and that doesn't destroy innocent people and civilians who are not involved in the wars that they are enforcing on those people. The whole system partly depends upon the fact that we collectively accept the notion that a military system must exist to defend our rights and to defend our nation. But this is not in fact true. The military system actually encourages violence, it encourages hatred, it encourages racism. And there is no way that that system will end until we all change our overall outlook and become truly the civilized world that we claim to be and that we want to be. Now, the second thing that I'd like to say is I was born in 1950, and many of the events that most of you will have heard of occurred during my lifetime. And I wanted to just highlight some of the significant individual actions that spilled out into collective action that became very effective. And significantly, a large number of those people taking that individual action were women, often very much overlooked. Now, the situation in America when I was born in 1950 was that certain areas had severe segregation. It was actually illegal for black people to be kept down, to be kept out of any opportunities to achieve the life and the successes that everyone deserves and is aiming for. When I was around 6 years old, my mother, who was Jamaican and had been in America and had, together with Jackie's father, been involved in the civil rights movement, had to warn me as a young child to be very careful, because a young boy known as Emmett Till, his name was Emmett Till, had been killed, murdered most viciously. He was born in Chicago, and he went down south in order to visit family and relatives. And he did not know how severe the racism and the hostility was in that area. He went to a local hardware shop where the white woman whose husband owned the shop claimed that this 14-year-old boy, who was smaller than me, was smaller than 5 feet, had whistled at her or looked at her in a way that was suggestive. The next day, that night, her husband and brother-in-law kidnapped Emmett Till and beat him to death so severely that he was almost unrecognizable. You can see film of the funeral. He was a young boy. He was as pretty as the young Michael Jackson, but when his body was shown in the funeral, he looked like the Elephant Man. His mother deliberately kept the funeral casket open so that people could see what these white racists had done to her innocent son. And you can actually see film. Someone telling the police where to go.
No.
You can actually see film of people walking past the funeral casket, and some of them actually fainting at the sight of what had been done to this young boy. Now, it was because of that action that a year or two later, Rosa Parks said, "This is not tolerable. This segregation, this hatred needs to end." And having seen what had happened to Emmett Till, she sat on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama. Now, to many of you here, this may seem a rather courageous act on behalf of this black woman, a spontaneous act, but in fact, it was a political act. She was part of a local group that had gathered together and said, we need to get together to challenge this segregation. And also, what you need to remember is that she could have been killed. The police in Montgomery, Alabama, were all like Derek, what's his name, the killer of George Floyd. They got away with massive killing. She sat on the bus and she was arrested because she had refused, as the law demanded, to give up her seat for a white man that had gotten onto the bus. When she was arrested, various people in her community called Martin Luther King to come and give her support. And together they said, we need to start working together. And that was the start of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, you all know, was very effective in publicizing to the world the horrors of segregation and racism in particularly in the South at that time. There were many demonstrations, there were many walks, and one of the ones that was most effective was carried out by young children. The young people under the age of 15, black children, said, we are going to march because we want to show the world what these police are prepared to do to people who are demonstrating peacefully for their rights. And you can also see film of that demonstration. 14-year-olds having dogs set on them, having fire hoses that were capable of knocking over cars put on them. And many of those children were arrested, and some of them were never seen again. But that particular demonstration was very effective in helping to end segregation. Just incidentally, I might add, some years later, only about 4 or 5 years ago, the white woman who had accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, admitted that he had done absolutely nothing. Right? This is also available on record. Now, I was about 14 in 1964 when the law was first changed to end partial segregation in parts of the segregation in America. And I remember being very inspired by seeing these young people demonstrating and their bravery and their courage, because it wasn't like a demonstration that we have here where you might get arrested. Those people were facing serious danger, right? At that time, around 13 or 14, I was realizing that I was gay. This was before the law was changed. I knew no other gay people, but I saw these young black boys and girls, and they inspired me to try to stand up for our rights. A friend of mine, who I also knew was gay, committed suicide at the school. Right? And I was feeling very depressed, and I told my mother that I thought I was becoming homosexual. Those were the only terms that we had in those days. No, I didn't know about from gay. Yeah? Because I didn't know him. Oh, sorry, okay. Anyway, okay, so the main speech at which Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech was organized by a gentleman called Bayard Rustin, who in 1964, he was an openly gay man, and he said that one day gay people will be fighting for their rights in the same way that black people are. And yet he was bundled away from that march. But there was a connection between the gay rights movement and the black civil rights movement that we all know has progressed today. Anyway, thank you. That's
Thank you.